All right, you guys, I am so excited for today. This is actually one of my really good friend's sister-in-laws, and my friend reached out to me and she's like, oh my gosh, you got to interview her, because I just love when people refer me. So I have Dawn on here, and she is a beautiful adoptive mama, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear her story. Her babies are just adorable, and she's just an amazing mom from everything that I've heard from my friends. So I'm super excited for you guys to hear her story. So Dawn, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Hey, well, thank you. Thank you for that intro. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for letting me share our story. So I have 4 children, and our oldest, we didn't know if we would be able to get pregnant just based on my history. And so then I got pregnant with him, and we were excited, and that was great. And we had him. And the doctors then told us when we tried to have subsequent babies that his birth was a literal miracle, that I shouldn't have been able to get pregnant with him. So then we went down this road of trying different things, and we were led to very strongly feel like we should be doing adoption. So we kind of started going down that road with our agency. And anyway, we were waiting, got all the things done. As everybody knows, it's just like such a process, and had been waiting for a while after getting approved to adopt. And my husband Ryan was on a business trip, and he was talking to actually somebody that's one of his competitors. It's kind of funny, some of these trips they have to like hang out with their competitors. It's an interesting situation, but he was chatting with him about family. He was just asking, how many kids do you have? And my husband was saying, we have one, but we're like hoping to adopt. And this man said, well, that's interesting. I have somebody in my neighborhood that I think she is looking to place a baby. And so anyway, long story short, he connected us. And that's I asked my husband like what he would share. And that's kind of one of his big takeaways from the process of adoption is like, we're in general, like on these public spaces and whatever, we're pretty private people, but opening up to others about your family and your life can really just be such a connecting tool in so many positive ways, right? So anyway, he was able to get connected to our second child's birth mom through this man that he met on a business trip, which is kind of a cool part of the story. And so we were able to meet up with her. She contacted us, and we were able to communicate a little bit, and we met up with her, and we were able to be matched with her. She chose us to place her baby with, and we were able to meet the birth father, and he was wonderful. And going into the hospital situation, so she was pregnant, and we were able to be invited to the hospital to take him home from the hospital, which was such a dream to be able to have that experience with them. And another part of the story I like to share is like going into the hospital, we had met our son Oliver's birth mother's family, but we hadn't met his birth father's family. And so there were a lot of nerves there for so many reasons, as everybody knows with adoption. And going into the hospital, it was just really nerve-wracking to think, what are these people going to think of us? And are they going to feel okay with us? You kind of want to put your best foot forward so that they feel okay with where their grandchild is going. And so anyway, it was just such a beautiful experience to meet them. And they welcomed us with open arms. And they told us, after the fact, that they were super nervous about the whole situation as well, and that meeting us was just a huge confirmation to them that this was right, and that he was going to the family that he belonged with, which was, I just can't even, all of our experiences with our children, so many of these experiences, that it's just all about love from every side of the triangle. We've just been so blessed with so many great people in our lives in knowing these birth families. So we have a great open relationship with both of Oliver's birth parents and their families. And we actually spend quite a bit of time with them throughout the year. And they live close. We are lucky to have them close to where we live, which is sometimes pretty unique. And we spend quite a bit of time with them, at least birthday and Christmas. And as we get older and they start to have kids of their, his birth parents start to have children, they are, life gets busier. But anyway, we try to get together at least Christmas and birthday. So, and then we wanted to adopt another child. And so we were able to go back to our agency and meet our daughter's birth mother after waiting. Again, it was about a year. I don't know if I said that. So going through that process again, it's interesting because we had been through it before, and I just thought, okay, this will be good. Like, we've been through it before, and experience is helpful, but I don't know that I can say it makes it easier. It's helpful. I think the waiting game is tough. I think it's always tough. I think no matter how much you prepare yourself, that everything's okay. You have your family as it is, and you want to grow your family some more. Even with all that in your mind, like, no matter how long this takes, we're going to be okay. We know how this goes. It's always still a little tough. You have your times and your days, just like anything in life where it's more emotional than others. So that was a little bit of a tough waiting game, but I remember meeting Jenna's birth mother on New Year's Day. I will always remember that because it was New Year's Day and we were able to meet her, and she is just a darling, wonderful person as well. And so we just felt so comfortable with her, and we were able to get to know her over the next few months, and she was able to let us know that she wanted to place her baby girl with us. And so we were able to meet Jenna's birth father as well during that time of her being pregnant, and that was great to meet him. And so anyway, so then we were able to go to the hospital and when Jenna was born, and take her home from the hospital as well. So that's kind of been a beautiful experience with both of those sets of birth parents and their families. And we've met, birth grandmas and aunts and uncles, and just like so incredible, because at the beginning of the whole experience, when we found out that I would probably never in a million years be able to have another miracle pregnancy, and we looked into adoption, our agency was really educating us. We did a lot of education, and a lot of the statistics and studies they showed us is how mentally healthy it can be for the whole adoption triad for open adoptions. And I just thought, man, like, I cannot co-parent, and I am such a private person in a lot of ways, and this is really scary to me. I like to, as many of us do, try and control my life. And, the younger you are, the more you feel like you have control. And I, thought I just wanted to control this, and I didn't know if I could handle open adoption. And the more I learned about it, and now being on this side of it, but the more I learned, the more I was educated on the fact that it's not co-parenting at all. That's not what it is, and that it doesn't need to be a scary thing. It's very situational. I mean, obviously dependent on who you are, who birth parents are, what that scenario is, and what the relationship is. But and so I know everybody's situation is different, but we've just been very blessed that as we've kind of had an open mind to mostly just like being open to the relationship, and as long as it's healthy for our children, which it always has been, that we will have this open relationship. The more we've been open to that, like, just the easier it's been. And just the reality that, like, they are people too. I think, like, when we first went into adoption, we had these, I don't know, at least for me, I can't speak for my husband, this thought in my head of, like, which I didn't even realize I had, of just, who are these people going to be? It was kind of like a scary unknown. And then meeting them, it's like, they're just people. Like, they're just friends. They're just family. Now they're family. But, so anyway, so we kind of felt like our family was complete. And then a couple of years ago, I just started having this feeling again. And we really did think our family was complete. But I went to Ryan, and, long story short, we landed back in the world of doing paperwork for adoption. And this time it was with a different agency. So our old agency didn't do facilitated adoptions anymore. And so the process was so different. And that's another thing that's very interesting, is just even before, it's kind of almost like we weren't contacted until we were chosen, almost like until the birth mothers were very interested in us. And in this process, it was more like we would see situations come up that we could view. And so we were constantly seeing situations. So it was a little bit harder in a way that we almost always kind of were on deck for like, yes, we would love to be matched up with this situation. And then it would just pass us by. And so it was pretty tough this last time around, which is so funny because we had 3 children. We were very involved in activities in life, but just having it always like there always being an email or there always being something, it kind of kept it at the top of our minds. And so that was a tough waiting game. And then a year passed and I thought maybe this is an experience I needed to have to learn from. I very much feel like God is a part of all of this and has been every step of the way. I mean, I know that for our specific situations. And so I just thought, maybe God wanted me to learn something from, listening to a feeling that we need to go down this road again, but that maybe we aren't going to adopt. So a year passed and, didn't know if we should renew our home study or if we should just, call it. And anyway, right as that time came about, and we had a few really big disappointments that were really heart shattering at that time. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore, which again is so fascinating to me looking back on it, because I felt at the beginning of the process of trying to adopt a third time that I was just pretty rock solid as far as my emotions. And I just thought like, I've been like, this isn't my first rodeo with adoption. So anyway, about that time, we got a phone call from the agency and she said, can I talk to you? And I knew it was about like paperwork. And so I was like, okay, what now? So I kind of pulled out of the drive-through I was in and I pulled off to the side and she said, there's this baby that was born on Saturday. This was a Monday. And it's funny because I just will never forget thinking like, what is she talking about? Like, we're talking about paperwork, right? Like, what is it? And she's like, so in Las Vegas, can you drive down there? Can you be there as soon as possible? And I was like, what? I mean, I was going through these stage of denial of like what she was saying to me. It's almost like I wasn't even comprehending. I was just fighting it so much at that point, I think. Anyway, so she said there was a child that was ours and that could we get to Las Vegas? And I called my husband and we threw some clothes in suitcases, and 28 hours after we got that call, he was in our arms in the hospital. And gosh, man, I just look back on that experience and how many times I wanted to just be done and think this was just a life lesson for me to learn and not necessarily for us to adopt another baby. I just like can't imagine not having Winston in our lives. He's just the sweetest thing. So, and then when we were down in Vegas, we had to stay there to get the interstate agreements signed, and it was over Thanksgiving. And so it was just an interesting experience being in a hotel room that long with our now 4 children and a newborn. And we just said to the agency, because his birth mom, she kind of didn't have a lot of education on adoption. She didn't know anything. She didn't know how it went. And so they had advised her like, our standard agreement is like pictures through the agency and this is what you can do. And she just kind of said, yeah, whatever you guys think is best, that's great. Like, I'll do that. And I just said to them, we really love open adoption and we have open adoptions with our other 2 children that we have adopted. And we would love to meet her while we're down here if she's open to it. And so that wasn't the plan at all, but we kind of said like, I think this would be really good for Winston someday if we could have that kind of a connection and an experience where we could take a picture with her and meet her and hear her story and just like anything she's willing to do, but please make sure she's comfortable. And she said yes. And so we were so excited and again, so nervous. I mean, here we are as full grown adults and she's probably half our age, but we're just so nervous to go in and meet her, just thinking like, she has entrusted us with the most precious thing in her life. Like, what is she going to feel when she meets us? Is she going to feel like it was the right decision? Excuse me. And we met her at the agency before we left town. And it was such a sweet experience to get to sit with her. And she was, I mean, she's incredible. She just sat with us and just told us whatever we wanted to know. And she just said, like, you guys are my saviors. Like, I didn't necessarily want this to be the situation that I was in, but this is the situation I'm in. And I just was praying that he would just be with someone who loved him unconditionally. And I already feel that from you guys. And wow, like to hear her say that, just it heals my heart for like all the pain that she has had to have gone through to get to that point. And for us too, there was always this feeling of wanting to know that our birth parents of our children felt right about us. Like that is a desire we've always had. And that doesn't have to be the case. I mean, they could place with us and then not feel good about it, but their rights are terminated. And so it's not like that has to be the case, but like for us, it had to be the case. Like we needed them to feel good about us. And anyway, so that's kind of our story. And we've had a lot of tricky things that have come up that are, just tough situations, but nothing too earth-shattering. So we feel very blessed to have such wonderful people in our lives. And things come up that are hard, but I think like you just work through it as a team, that the things that come up, and open communication has been really awesome for us. And for our children, it's been really cool. We meet people that say like, wow, you spend time with the birth family. Like it's not only open, but you guys like hang out with them. And it's just been so neat to watch our children always know that we adopted them. So our oldest that we adopted is now 9, and then down to our baby, our 1-year-old. And our 9-year-old knows that he was in his birth mom's tummy. I'm trying not to say her name just to keep confidence. He knows that he was in her tummy and not mine, and that my tummy's broken and doesn't really work to have babies anymore. But so they kind of know what's age appropriate, right? And that's just always been like part of their lives. And so it's not weird for them. It kind of has taken the mystery out of like, where did I come from? Who are these people that I was born to? And so we don't have teenagers yet. We don't have, young adults yet for children. And so we'll see when we get there. I'm sure things will come up, but it's been really cool to see them it just seems like they are in a really healthy place at this age. They're young. So at this age, they all seem like in a really healthy place with it. But I did want to say, like, it's not all roses because I make it sound that way. But, I'm not going to dive into all the nitty gritty of situations. But I think like it's just been a really positive experience for us overall. So
I think that's amazing. And I think it's wonderful. And I love, because me being an adoptee, that my adoption was closed. I mean, granted, it was 34 years ago. I love that now a lot of the adoptions are turning to open because, like you said, and you're not there with teenage stage or adult stage with kids. But my favorite thing that was probably like the only real hard thing about being adopted for me, even though my parents, like, they were so open and so awesome with everything, is that it was, where do I come from? Like, I had a picture of my birth mom, but it's like, where do I come from? Who do I have mannerisms like? And so I love that. And that's my favorite thing about open adoption, which is not only you guys, but with a lot of families, is these kids get to know see things and, here and there. And like you said, it's not that it doesn't come with hardships, because everybody, I don't care who you are, you're going to have hard crap go on in your life, no matter what. But I love it. And I love that you shared. I think it's amazing because, there's going to be people who go through agencies who they're there and then something comes up and they're no longer there. And then you guys went to a new one, and how it was so different. And so, and I also, one of the biggest takeaways I took away from you is no matter how many times you do it, it's always going to be super hard. Like there's always the unknown. You're always going to have those crazy hard feelings because, like you said, you want to be able to experience this with, good humans, and to know that you are going to love their baby so much, which it sounds like it's been, for the most part, amazing with them knowing that they are placing their babies with somebody, with people who are just awesome humans who just want these babies to have love and to know that they're loved. And so I just think that's so, so, so amazing. And seriously, I love it. I love it so much. And oh, your babies, they're just so cute. And it's awesome and it's wonderful. And I think it's so cool. And I also love how you said control, because I think as women in general too, we like to control situations. And so it's probably hard with adoption because there's not a lot that you can control. It sounds like with the last adoption, all of a sudden they're like, wham, bam, okay, come here, do this. Can you guys leave? Can you be here? Can you do that? And that most people are like, wait, what? No, we have to stop our lives right now and do that. And so I think that's amazing too. So seriously, thank you for sharing. Do you have any advice for, anybody that you can think of with anything from your story?
Yeah, I was just thinking the one kind of thing I left out of this story, actually, which is kind of goes along with advice I would give. Well, first, I'm such an expectations person. So I think I would tell myself, like, adjust your expectations over and over again, because I just kept having these expectations of like, oh, it'll just be so much easier this time because I've done it before. And like, it's just like you hit on that. It just never is necessarily easier. Like it's just there's familiarities about the process, but not necessarily easier. But also our caseworker that came from, we met her through the first agency we were with for our first two adoptions. And then when they stopped facilitating adoptions, she kind of went out on her own, and she still was able to do our home studies for our last adoption. And she was just such a advocate for it. She was so good at, she was just incredible. And so I think finding someone who can be that for you, so she kind of was like a counselor therapist, but not really, because that's not what she was there for us in like a paid position. But like, when things would get hard, I would just come to her and say like, I don't know if I can do this. And she would listen, and she would be like, what I'm hearing is this, and what I think is this. And it was just, I don't think I could have done it 3 times without having her in my life. Our caseworker was so phenomenal at holding my hand through it all. And I just think I look at, and I talk to people, I talked to other adoptive couples that have done it once and are just like, it was so terrible, I could never do it again. And I think, I don't know if it's like I don't know how you find your Haley. Her name's Haley. I don't know how you find your Haley, but I think whether it's like a therapist or just, something going through the process to keep you going, I think that's super powerful, because she truly is the reason that we've been successful from our end in adoption. Is just having that person there that maybe knows a little bit, not even just like a friend to lean on, but maybe someone who even knows a little bit about the adoption world is super helpful. And so sometimes agencies can provide that. But I just think having that person to keep you going is crazy helpful. And yeah, adjusting expectations constantly of like, this is what it is. It's hard, and that's okay, And I just think like the hard things that we've gone through, this is, I guess, the last thing I wanted to say is what's made it that much more sweeter to be where we're at with our kids. And so it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I wish I could just shout from the rooftops, like, keep going. It's so hard and it's so beautiful. I kind of cringe when people say, oh, but it'll all be worth it. Like when you're sitting in the thick of it, you don't want to hear that. You know that, but you don't want to hear that. But like, just keep going is kind of what my advice would be.
I love that you shared that, because I can't tell you how many adoptive parents I've interviewed, and I don't think anybody has said to find somebody like your Haley, that will be your support. I think that's huge. And this might sound weird, but like for me, I think it'd be a good idea to maybe, shop around. Like if you have somebody and they're not a good fit, go find somebody else, because from what it sounds like, it's a huge decision and a huge relationship that you're going into with this person. So I thank you for sharing that, because I don't think anybody's ever said that before. Like, they've said this and that, and they more just kind of share this, but I think that's amazing. So seriously, that's probably one of the biggest takeaways I'm taking away. And this is why I love doing these, because I always learn something new, always. And it's my favorite thing ever. So seriously, Dawn, thank you for taking some time out of your morning and doing this. And I really, really appreciate it. Are there anything else you want to share?
No, that's it. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. And seriously, thank you so much. And I appreciate you, like I said, taking some time out of your morning to sit down with me and just to help educate not only me, but people who listen to these. So seriously, thank you again so much.